Hey there, Munaki. It's Friday. Figure you haven't seen my face in a while. I just want to say happy Friday, happy Spirit Day, House Reviewer, represent, and to lead us all in, let's assemble House Reviewer. All the dreamers have assembled. Let's get in today's breakdown, Mr. Keelan. It's Friday. Week 3, you made it through. Bravo. Proud of you. We're wrapping up the first of our sections looking at the end of Roman Republic. And the two sections of reading that you had looked into how big the Roman Empire got and also delved a little bit deeper into some of the long-term impacts of the Romans' culture and government and so on and so forth had on shaping Western civilization in a lot of ways. So let's get into it, shall we? First, we see that the Roman Empire from Augustus for the next 200 years into the Pax Romana continued to expand and expand and expand and expand. And Italy, because of its central location, central into Europe and central into the Mediterranean, allows the people of Rome to really maximize their geographic potential and utilize it to carry troops, to feed their armies because of the mild climate, long growing season, and to be able to move troops easily from one place to another, messages, and to keep their government running. So the central point of Italy really allows Rome to become that central government authority for a continent and a sea, which is a big deal. If we look at this map here, we can see the Rome at the height of its power at about 173 CE, the furthest extent. You can see that they control most of the island of Britain, all of present-day Spain, all of present-day Portugal, all of present-day France, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Belgium, a good chunk of Germany, Switzerland, Austria, all the Balkan countries. Then going over into Asia, what is present-day Turkey, parts of present-day Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Israel, most of Egypt, and a good chunk of Libya, Algeria, and Tunisia. Man, they had a huge amount of territory. And wherever you see red, that's where Roman culture spread. And within Rome, there was a lot of debate over if they should continue to expand and expand. But that relentless hunger for dominion, for land, prevailed. And we're going to see in a lot of ways, eventually, that will be the Romans' undoing. That they'll have so much territory that becomes unmanageable, even with its great location in Italy. The Romans did try to target areas that they thought could bring them the most resources, bring the most to their empire, that could really make the biggest difference, and especially in feeding such a large group of people. And we're going to see especially the taking of Egypt will be a big part of that. And Romans wanted to make their whole empire Roman, meaning that even if you were living in Gaul, present-day France, or living in Egypt, or in Asia Minor, present-day Turkey, you lived as a Roman. They try to make it that you lived their way no matter where you were in their empire. Although we will see that eventually they'll start to infuse some elements of conquered people's culture into their own, and particularly after the Roman Empire converts to Christianity and is spreading that religion throughout Europe, we see a lot of pagan traditions of different barbarian people that lived in the Germanic states, for example. A lot of their traditions are infused into Christian traditions. For example, the Christmas tree was a pagan tradition in Germany that the Romans infused into it as they spread Christianity. So elements of Roman culture can be still found throughout Europe, Africa, and the Middle East today. And really, actually, you can include throughout North and South America today, because the people of Europe, during the age of colonization and imperialism, spread their culture, which in many ways was Roman culture, to North and South America. And if we look throughout the places where the Romans lived, they spread their architecture, their language, their law, their calendar, their forms of entertainment, and their religious beliefs. In particular, after the conversion of to the state religion being Christianity with the Emperor Constantine. So let's take a look at some examples of that. Now, we could look in places in the Middle East, Europe, and find many different places like the Temple of Bacchus, which is a well-preserved Roman temple that is in the country of Jordan in the Middle East. But why don't we look at some ways that we can see Roman influence here in the United States? So, for example, the U.S. Supreme Court, that is designed after a Roman temple. You could almost see similarities in the frieze, the columns. If you were living in ancient Rome, you would see buildings in many ways without, the glass windows and everything, but in many ways that would resemble the structures that we see of many of the buildings inside of Washington, D.C. In fact, many of our buildings that are centers of government, in particular courts, are modeled after Roman style because we model so much of our legal system after the Romans. As you see here, our codified law system, that we have a system of civil law and criminal law, the ideas of how we run courts, that we have a trial by jury, that you have the right to question your peers, how the process of lawmaking a lot was influenced by the Roman Republic. So we see that there's a lot of similarities in our legal system from Roman legal system. Why do we have that? Because the Romans spread their system throughout much of Europe. So the Europeans brought those systems here. Our language, English, is mostly Germanic, but about 30% of it comes from Latin. And if we look here, we can see a number of words that all have Latin roots because the Romans spread their language throughout so much of Europe. We saw last time how many Romance languages still spoken today all pretty much sound like Latin words. Words that we use like agriculture, figure, language, pirate, and scholar all have their roots with Latin words. Here we see the Julian calendar, and if we look at it, it's very much similar to our calendar. They had 12 months. They had the same amount of days in each month that we do. If you look, they even had the shortened month of February. One of the things that is different that they would count, we see that we have the days counted up to 365. But you can see how many days would be in the month, that they have a 12-month system. We still use that here in the United States because the Romans spread that throughout much of Europe. How about entertainment? Things that Romans did for entertainment, they loved watching chariot racing. Their chariot racing, which we'll explore in the next chapter, was brutal and bloody and violent. But it was pretty much horses running around a track. People racing vehicles around a track. Well, those types of entertainment are still very popular in the United States today and still very popular throughout parts of Europe. They spread the love of watching that as entertainment. Here, NASCAR is pretty much an adapted Circus Maximus race. The Kentucky Derby is an adapted Circus Maximus race. How about gladiator fights? Violent sport for entertainment, watching people commit violence against one another. You ever watch a pro wrestling match, an MMA match, boxing match? All of them have elements of gladiatorial sport. Heck, even pro wrestling will use an occasional weapon like a steel chair. They're essentially the gladiators of America. We even had a show called American Gladiators. And religion. Now, not a lot of people are practicing the polytheistic religion that was practiced by many Romans in the early part of their empire, but the religion of the second part of their empire, Christianity, spreads rapidly throughout most of Europe because it becomes the state religion of Rome. The Romans mandated that everybody living within their empire had to convert to this religion. And if we look here, you can see around 300, year 300, it becomes the main religion in Rome. And by that time, within 300 years, it's spread throughout a good chunk of their empire as a prominent religion. And because it was the religion of Rome, Christianity is now the dominant religion on the planet. It's practiced by more people than any other faith in the world. Anything that you see in this map that's purple, the dominant religion that's practiced is Christianity. So, my question for you is, why do you think Romans wanted people within their empire to share their culture? Why do you think it was so important to them that people within their empire also had aspects of their culture? Perhaps maybe it had a unifying effect, that all people living throughout their empire felt Roman even if they didn't live in Rome? I don't know. Might have given you a little help there. Hope you had a wonderful week and have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you back on Monday. Have a great one, kids.